Coming up next is a panel discussion on safety and security of citizens. Safety and security lie at the heart of the prosperity of any nation. Let's hear from our experts what they have to share with us. I would like to invite Mohammed Ujaley, Senior Assistant Editor, ETGovernment, to moderate the discussion. Over to you, Ujaley.
Hello and very warm welcome to ETGovernment Urban Innovation Summit. In this special panel discussion focused on safety and security of citizens, we are going to focus on the pandemic's impact on cybersecurity and public sector leaders and how public sector leaders are using technology to mitigate the new emerging challenges. To lead the discussion, today I'm joined by Mr. G. Narendra Nath, Joint Secretary, Cyber National Security Council Secretariat, Government of India. Mr. Manoj Abraham, Additional Director General of Police Headquarters and Nodal Officer for CyberDome Project, Government of Kerala. Mr. Balsing Rajput, Deputy Commissioner of Police, Crime Prevention, Maharashtra Police, Government of Maharashtra. Professor Triveni Singh, Superintendent of Police, Cybercrime, Government of Uttar Pradesh. Mr. Haider Zaidi, Additional Commissioner of Police, Rajasthan, Government of Rajasthan. Jaipur, yes. Let me begin with Mr. Nath. Mr. Nath, what we have observed during the pandemic that for all the sector, actually it created some level of challenges. And even from a security point of view, what we noticed that a different kind of cyber attack were being noticed. And both government organization and private organization actually witnessed a kind of accelerated attack. Would you like to share based on your observation as to how you observe the security movement during the pandemic?
Yeah, thank you. I introduce myself again. I'm Narendra Nath, working as the Joint Secretary, looking after cyber affairs at the National Security Council Secretariat. So during the pandemic, there are two dimensions that we are looking at. One is the work from home that has happened because people had to continue, because of business continuity reasons, they had to continue the business, the work from home that has happened. And there were some cybersecurity issues that related to that. The other was, we already had phishing and wishing attacks that were taking place. And now we have, people looking out for information regarding the pandemic, about what are the cures and how does the pandemic affecting people and all. So people were searching for information, and that was being used for, actually getting a new vector for the phishing and wishing attacks. And that was being used as a vector for that. And the third dimension that came about was the misinformation and disinformation regarding the pandemic itself, which was a cause of concern. So these are the three different dimensions we had causes of concern for that. And also, because of the pandemic, people started doing a lot of their business, like, going to e-commerce sites. Many of the people started using digital payment systems. People who are not earlier used those digital payment systems. And they did not really have a very good idea about the cyber hygiene practices that they have to follow. So there were concerns regarding that also. So these are all some problems that were there. So the issue here that came about was, like, for example, if somebody was looking for information, how to identify something as a trusted website is a challenge that was there. How do you have? And, we had these cases where people would go searching for some customer service and then Google, and then land on a call center number, which would be a fake call center number. And then, they would go there and then they would get cheated out. I mean, they would also share their credentials and the passwords and all of that. They would get cheated. So these are all problems where they would share their OTPs, they would share the user credentials, which were being captured. And so we had issues on all of these. So these are different. The only thing is, because of the pandemic and the fear that was there in the society, the dimension of the attacks was much more, and a lot more people were falling for them.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. Now I'll go to before I go to Mr. Triveni Singh, I'll go to Dr. Balsing Rajput. Mr. Rajput, there is no denying the fact that pandemic has necessitated a kind of digitalization, and which is leading to a kind of creating a larger attack surface for attackers. What kind of cyber security challenges did you observe during the pandemic? Why I'm asking you, because for urban management, especially people living in the metro cities, and what we observed during the pandemic, that the IT infrastructure of smart cities as well were being used for providing emergency response services. So reliance on technology actually during pandemic increased like never before.
Namaskar. Your observation is very correct that there is an increase in threat landscape during the pandemic. It's not only because that there is increased reliance on IT infrastructure for various kind of services, but the another factor is convergence of various technologies on a single platform like a mobile, from transaction to communication to entertainment to other things. Third important factor is awareness, because most of the rural populace is using these technologies on their mobile for the first time. So they are not aware and they are being pushed. Pandemic pushed people to use the digital technologies, even though they were not ready for it. It's a good thing for development. Now, if you see, the opposite of security is which kind of crimes has been increased. If you see a pan-India view or a view of Maharashtra, we saw that there is an increase in three kind of crimes. First is the economic cyber crimes. Cyber economic crimes, if you see, most of the crimes, 50 to 60% of the cyber crimes are related to cyber economic crimes, which includes phishing, wishing, OTP frauds, and the e-wallet kind of frauds. These are all cyber economic frauds, and there is an increase in that, not because the criminals were advanced, but the number of populace or number of people who are using such kind of services have also increased. If you see that 25 billion transactions has happened through digital transactions in 2021. So this is one reason. Second, the e-shopping, or we can say online purchase frauds, have also been increased. That there is a OLX purchase frauds are going on, then the Amazon purchase frauds related to coupons, then these kind of online shopping frauds are rampant. Third, what we observed is that third important factor was crimes related to women and children, the pornography or the online exploitation for pornographic or other means. These are the three important crime trends that we have observed. If you want to convert, considering these crime sets, what kind of security measures that were challenges is that security related to women and children on online platforms was major challenge. Second is providing security regarding online transactions, particularly while shopping and banking services, was the most important security challenge during the pandemics. These are my observations.
Right. Professor Triveni Singh, would you like to add your experience during the pandemic, some of the case that you have been able to come across?
Yeah, definitely. I would like to go by the statistics part. First, the statistics related with Uttar Pradesh only. So we can see, I can look at the data. In last 2 years, we have got more than 1 lakh cases. And if we categorize this data into 3 important verticals, like cybercrime committed through social media platform or financial cybercrime, or a highly technical crime. So 56% cases were related with cybercrime happening through a social media platform. And then 24% online financial fraud. And then rest of the crime are highly technical, like cryptocurrency and ransomware attack and this type of online gambling and cyber trafficking and all that. So definitely, this is my observation that during pandemic, there was huge rise in cybercrime, because of course everyone is now taking classes online to doing business, or even ordering some consumable goods online. So definitely there is some rise in cybercrime cases. And because the general public, they are not aware about cyber hygiene, or what kind of cybercrime may happen while they are using their mobile phone or the laptop or ordering something. They are not aware, and that's why they are falling victim to such kind of.
Yes,
I think.
Right. You are absolutely right. I think there is no doubt that the rate has actually increased, and as Dr. Balsing Rajput said, that the reason were multiple. From using more technology than actually delivering services, and with digital being only one of the medium during the lockdown actually which could provide citizen services. Mr. Zaidi, now I'll come to you, and I would like to understand from you that we do understand that cyber cases have been there for ages, and the police forces across the country have been taking different measures to mitigate this challenge today and even in the past. What kind of demographic differences you find in terms of the cases? What I mean to understand, in cities, do you see more cases, or the cyber cases which is being reported is mostly coming from the non-urban cities? What kind of differentiation is there? If you have any data on that, or anything that you would have come across based on your experience in Jaipur.
So I have, as Additional Commissioner Police Jaipur, I've seen witnessing a lot of cybercrime, because as you know, during last year, almost 20% of the data usage is increased. And that is because of work from home, the children working on, studying online. And we have got a lot of, I think at one time there was not even a tablet available in the shop. So it was, they were all solved. So it's a new kind of era, new kind of experiences, new kind of challenges. And regarding the cybercrime, I think nothing is safe anymore.
Right.
Our bank accounts are not safe. Our national security is not safe. Our privacy is not there. So we are witnessing a new kind of, and we are not able to figure it out, like in the case of COVID. Okay, how do we react, and what is the real threat of it? How can we cure it? So it is just an experimenting phase. But in cybercrime, I have witnessed, not in Jaipur, but I was SSP Bharatpur, and I have witnessed a small section of a small region of Mewat developing into a hub of cybercrime, especially OLX crime. It is almost like Jamtara, or even bigger than in volume, like than Jamtara, and a small hub of villages comprising of, in Haryana, Bharatpur and Alwar. These villages developed into a large den of cybercrime, especially OLX and this sexual threats, and producing videos, and they almost, I cannot name the persons, but they've almost given in lakhs of rupees to these people. And I've also interrogated and cracked, and I've also helped the teams from other states, because they are getting SIM cards from other states like Jharkhand, Bengal, and where the trucks are going. They're getting and they are activating it here, and they are using it, throwing it. So it's a whole set of networks. So we have just proposed a new cyber station there in Mewat, and we are working on it. This helpline recently, which MH is 155260, it has helped a lot in preventing these banking frauds.
Absolutely. Mr. Nath, now I'll come to you. One thing is very clear, that we do face cybersecurity challenges. And in most of the cases, we see the citizens are primarily the victims. At times, the government department could be the victim. In some of the cases, we have noticed. And one of the reasons that all the speakers somehow touch upon is, which will come in the next section, that there is less awareness. People might miss the cyber hygiene that they should have been following. But from a broader organization point of view, I would like to understand from you that as an organizational mitigating framework, for mitigating the challenge of cybersecurity. What tools and technology, based on your experience, you feel that government organization or any public sector organization must be using to mitigate the new emerging challenges that you see?
So one is, I would like to address before we come to that regarding the general citizens about which we have been talking about, the cybercrime and all that. Of course, it's been brought about regarding the helpline that Mr. Zaidi had talked about. So the I4C, Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center is one initiative of the government, and MHA has got it together. And there's 7 verticals in that where the I4C, they're taking it as a holistic picture about whole cybercrime and how it's to be addressed. And considering that crime is a state subject, they have actually created a platform, and they're also bringing all the state governments on board, where though the registration is happening on common platform, the information actually flows down to the respective state governments for taking mitigative action. I will not say that the work there is complete. It's still a work in progress. Some of the states which are proactive have really come on board and started working on that. And there are some states yet to come on board. And it's a work in progress, but that's an initiative, at the organizational level to mitigate the cybercrime that is happening for the citizens. So it's a tool for the citizens to get themselves mitigated. Of course, there are issues which are required to be addressed because as some people who have accessed the portal talk about the difficulty of filling up the information. Some of the information is basically required for making a FIR. The bare minimum information is required, but it is not easy for everybody who has been a victim of cybercrime to go to the portal and fill up that information. And there are also issues of vernacular languages and people who are affected not necessarily being educated enough to handle that. So I think those are things that are being looked at, and those have to be addressed to make that tool really useful to the citizens who are being affected. Okay, so that's at the citizen level. And of course, there are some cyber hygiene things that we said we would talk about, and we'll come to the next, whichever you want to ask at that time. At the organizational level, there are, it's not that measures have not been taken earlier. Cybersecurity measures have always been taken. They've talked about having, you have firewalls, okay, antivirus software and all of that. And there are new technological tools that are coming now. And one of the things that people talk a lot about nowadays is the zero trust architecture. Right. So the zero trust architecture is one thing that people are talking about. Especially what happens is especially organization, when you have a phishing attack and they gain entry into a system, then you have lateral movement of the malware that happens. They are resident in that. And so if you want to really prevent and isolate the infection to one thing, it is important to have an architecture where you have zero trust, so that even you assume that infection would really take place, because it's only one time that multiple attempts are made, and one successful attempt would result in entry into the system. So the concept now is that you assume that an entry would be made into a system at whatever point of time. It is a question of isolating that infection to see that there's no lateral movement, and you don't have large scale infection happening across the government. So that is one major thing that is happening about the zero trust architecture. And of course, the red teaming and blue teaming exercises that people are talking about, to see that the necessary skills are built about and people are aware. And you are also knowing about your cybersecurity posture of your people and the infrastructure that is there. So these are two major initiatives I find that, which is different from what was there earlier that people are taking.
Right. Absolutely. Dr. Balsing, Rajput, would you like to add your views, especially around tools and technology on an organizational level to mitigate organizational security challenges that some of the public sector department might be facing?
Yeah, sir has rightly pointed out two important, you can say, strategies. One is zero trust, and another is about the implementation part. My point is that apart from strengthening the organizations, we also have to strengthen the endpoints. So the users, particularly, are the citizens. They are not trained. They are not, the experts, what they need to do. So we organizations should also provide the endpoint security solutions to their customers. Like I will give an example. Suppose the various service providers, social media service providers are providing free account, free services. But suppose take example, XYZ social media company is providing a networking solution. Through that networking solution, a fraud is being happened. Suppose a fraud of romance scam, maybe a fraud of phishing is happening. That company also knows that their platform is being misused, or a e-shopping platform is being misused. They are not taking adequate measures to make aware the citizens or the users. First. Second, they should also equally be held responsible for awareness drive to their users, their customers. They are the actual losers in the game because they are giving away the money. And third thing is about the there is a distributed data of governments. So government, every department is coming up with a website, coming up with an application, coming up with a different kind of initiative. But the thought about centralized data protection of departments or of the government is very less. How in corporates people think about data, the protection of the data, use of that data for business analytics, and use of that data for furthering the business cause. That concept, that data, even though is of the people, government data, some data is shareable to the public, but still the stringent view of protection regarding data is missing in government organizations. And that view, still the data protection will come, and then the government organizations will be equally held responsible for data protection. But presently, the stringent view about data protection is not there in government organization. And that is a major cause of concerns, and we should strengthen that the view, that we should give more thought to this, that the data with government organizations is very important and should be protected.
Right. Professors Triveni Singh, Mr. Nath and Mr. Rajput mentioned two very important points from an organizational point of view. One is that you should have some types of architecture in place, which could be zero trust. And Dr. Balsing Rajput talked about that there has to be stringent security and privacy mechanism followed by public sector organization while dealing with different types of data. And also the fact that there are a lot of application which is delivering services to the citizen, and you are getting data from different sources. So maybe organization like Aadhaar, organization like Passport Seva Project, they might have a data lake type of thing, but a smaller organization which is just providing one or two services, or maybe one government corporation, might not have a data lake. So on an organizational front, what is your suggestion on ensuring security?
Yeah, when MHA started cybercrime.gov.in complaint registration platform, and one helpline number 155260, we started getting lots of cases, lots of huge rise in cases related with cybercrime. So what we did, we created a dedicated call center 24/7. 48 people are round the clock, they are working. Because the cases coming from cybercrime.gov.in and 155260 is integrated into our emergency response team system. And we connected it with 112 also. So if somebody is dialing 155260, the call is landing at our cyber help desk, and we highlighted the issue. If you don't remember this number, then you can dial 112, and then you make a request that this is a cybercrime case. Then the call is going to our dedicated call center. So one thing we did, and it's doing wonderful job, because the moment you registered their complaint, that mobile number, that credit card number, debit card number, wallet number, it immediately goes into the database. And then each and every operator who are on those platforms, they in supply chain, somewhere at some point, that number gets blocked, that money gets held on, if in real time you are reporting. What we did, thereafter we started a massive awareness campaign. So even, more than 1 lakh people from the school, from the NGO, from a different organization. And we started massive online cybercrime awareness campaign. And it was started by my DGP sir. Then just now we are talking about the Uttar Pradesh cyber security policy, or ACS Secretary Information Technology, he took the initiative. And now we are creating our Uttar Pradesh cyber security policy. As far as investigation part is concerned, we created a different cyber lab. We trained our police personnel into cyber forensic. And then what we did, we created different cyber verticals. We created a cyber headquarters and dedicated 18 cybercrime police stations in UP with more than 800 strength. And just few days back, we got 16 deputy SP posts, cyber DYSP, and 4 additional superintendent police posts we created in our state. That's why our police now they are more focused on dealing with this kind of technical and cybercrime cases.
Right, absolutely. Mr. Manoj Abraham, before I come to you, I'll go to Mr. Zaidi. Mr. Zaidi, earlier you spoke about some of the things that you personally look into it, especially from cybersecurity, women's security point of view, in a different setup, both in urban and non-metro setup.
Yeah.
I would like to understand from you on an organizational level, as a police, as a force, if we need to have an architecture which is integrated architecture, there if we have to solve some of the crime cases, what would be your view from an organizational point of view? What kind of suggestion you have?
Mr. Ujaley, what I feel is we are witnessing same kind of situation as there was in a famous novel, American novel, Future Shock. Right. So the technological changes are much faster, at a faster pace than the psychological changes. And there's a massive upsurge in the usage of internet, the usage of online banking, and the pace in which our mind is working, it is at a much lower. So I don't think the cyber hygiene or consciousness and creating some lessons in the school, they will be suffice. Because what I feel is we need massive upgradation on the government level, at the police level, because the crime which is happening on the earth is, I think, much is happening in the sky.
Right.
So we need a lot of cyber police. We need a lot of upgradations in the technology, and we need a lot of experts, because as we were recruited, we were not at all cyber experts. We were not computer literates. So we have learned, but now the need is to incorporate the experts in cybercrime, cybersecurity, and they should work as a separate cadre to help the police, or in fact, to be in the police.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you again. I'll go to Mr. Manoj Abraham. Mr. Abraham, some of the speakers that spoke before you, they all mentioned some of the challenges that government organization faced during the pandemic in relation to the cyber security. And also on an organizational level, the kind of architecture one public sector organization should have in order to mitigate any kind of cybersecurity challenges. And one of the challenge among all is coming is around the lack of awareness within in citizen in terms of the cyber hygiene, and lack of skill resources. That's what Mr. Zaidi was talking about within the police force in relation to the cyber security. Would you like to share your experience based on the learning that you have in the Kerala, especially in relation to the CyberDome project that you have implemented, as to how you are trying to mitigate these two challenges? One is the cyber awareness of cyber hygiene within the society, and also creating a kind of skill cyber pool resources within the police force.
Yeah, thank you, Ujaley. What you mentioned, both these points are, of course, very crucial elements that really determine one of the major flaws in our cyber security landscape. Awareness, of course, is one of the major things with the world coming together with the digital world, and the traditional borders going away, prevention is not a priority. Prevention is not possible in the present times. And so it's very essential that we become aware of the factors. Every individual becomes aware of the do's and don'ts in the cybersecurity arena. He follows those do's and don'ts to secure himself. If every individual secures himself, if every organization secures themselves, that is when these attacks can be thwarted. So awareness part or the cyber hygiene part is the most crucial thing, because the human element is the one that are exploited in almost 90% of all the cyber crimes. If you take it, it's a human element that has been compromised, and that's how the hacker gets into the system and compromises the whole fact. So awareness is one of the major keys. That's why around the world the police forces are doing it. In the country also, the government of India has taken it in a major scale. In Kerala also we have been doing it, trying to make the citizens aware on the do's and don'ts of looking at banking, looking at all those principles when they're using cyber resources. Now it is important even for students, even for the government sector, because everybody is on the online medium, whether it's at study at home or work from home, or all those digital resources that are available on the online platform. So awareness is the key, and I think we are doing a lot, but still a lot needs to be done, because this technology also keeps on changing, and the modus that these criminals or these hackers adopt in trying to fool these people, in adopting those phishing standards, we need to keep on. This has to be a continuous effort, because new crimes are coming up, new modus is coming up, new technology is coming up all the way. Then, as you said, the most important thing is the skill development among the police force, the capacity building among the police force and the IT sector also. Because now with the whole crime landscape only changing from the traditional crime to the digital world, we see that now the digital crime aspect is there in almost every crime. There is at least 20 to 30% of even the traditional crimes like murder or this thing being involved with cyber crimes also. So everybody needs to have at least a basic understanding of how to investigate a cyber crime, and to look at the cyber crime in a major factor, because the percentage of complaints now coming is increasing to 30-35% of all crimes also. So it's over the times, I'm sure it's going to increase to 60-70 crimes when we are totally becoming digitalized. The accelerated form of digitalization is coming up. So it's very essential that we train our staff. We make actually a cyber literate force totally. That is what we are looking at the future. In Kerala, we have taken a lot of initiatives, including the CyberDome, which is a public-private partnership initiative, and capacity building in all the police stations. Of course, as Triveni Singh was mentioned, they have done a lot of things in actually training policemen, taking those policemen as technical PCs in UP, etc., which is a very good effort. Because we need at each police station somebody trained in cybercrime, at least 4 to 5 people trained in cybercrime in the future, because that is the rate at which cybercrimes is increasing. And this capacity building also has to be a continuous process, because as I mentioned, new crimes are coming up, new modus is coming up, the technicality of the whole thing is increasing. And so it's a constant cat and mouse game. And so the capacity building also has to be a continuous process. And that's very important. So these are the two factors that we need: awareness among the citizen, and of course, capacity building in the government sector among the law enforcement to tackle the cyber crimes effectively.
Absolutely. We're in the last leg of this panel discussion, so I'll request our panelists to keep their answers short. I'll go to Mr. Nath. Mr. Nath, based on the discussion that we have so far, some of the things that you have heard from our different speakers, what should be the two key immediate technology priority for any public sector leader who is directly responsible for mitigating the cybersecurity challenges with public sector organizations? It could be both government department and police force, anything.
See, everything, all technology can follow a person. Having the right person in the place is very important. Then he can take care of everything. So I think it's important that, when you talk of government organization and private sectors, to have a right CISO and a right cybersecurity team. Many of them don't. So having a CISO with the requisite skills, education, and experience is very important. One thing good is this Rashtriya Raksha University in Ahmedabad, they've started a Bharat CISO program, and that's a good initiative. because that is one area we are talking about. Then the other initiative is that NCIPC, we have tasked NCIPC with coming up with a framework for cyber skills that people should have and the certification program. And they're working along with QCI in this regard, so that people have a framework where they can employ people and all that. I think having the right people in place will enable them to get the right technology in place. And I think the other, I'll just take 30 seconds more, is to have, exercises, because, you talked about awareness and all, you were talking about Mr. Triveni Singh also saying. So that does not really help. So what is required is for people to have that right responses, and that's when it comes out to having exercises. I think each organization should have some exercises that take place, mock exercise, to see if they're ready for that. I think that I'll stop here.
Dr. Balsing, Rajput, a very important thing Mr. Nath mentioned, especially around having CISO. I remember Digital India used to have one CISO, Digital India for CISO, posted at Ministry of Home Affairs. What would be your views? What should be the two key priorities?
Yeah, sir. My view to have, if you see supply side and the catchment side, at supply side, at government organizations, mostly the IT, critical IT infrastructure, the first thing is to reduce the threat landscape is by putting their data applications in together, so that the distributed applications, which are most threat because they are the distributed threat landscape, shall be put it together on a single platform first. Second, the view about the data. The government organizations are not as stringent as the private organization about data. It's the second. And third is awareness. Awareness may be through interactive, passive, or maybe through games or through other means may be imparted, because that is on catchment side. Awareness is the only thing that will help the consumer. So these are the three things which I suppose.
Professor Triveni Singh, your views, especially around the 2-3 key immediate priority for any public sector leader who is dealing with cybersecurity?
That's why we have focused on 2-3 things. Number one, creating awareness among the public and among the government servant, because they are not aware. And secondly, we are going to focus on capacity building in the police, because at least they should be aware about the tools, techniques, how the criminals are committing the crimes and how to investigate. So along with creating awareness among public and government servant, we are focusing on capacity building in police departments.
Right. Mr. Haider Ali Zaidi, your views, especially around few things that police organization can do to bolster their security postures.
I can sum up, Ujaley. The first thing is awareness. We need massive drive in creating awareness among the public. Secondly, massive capacity building, especially in the police force of the cyber experts and the people who are aware and who are experts in tracking the crime. And the next thing I would like to highlight is still we are not endangered by the two of the major things that some of the Western countries are experiencing. One is cyber terrorism, and another is cybercrime turning into darknet crimes.
Right.
So it is the next stage, and we should be aware of it, and it can come any time. So we should be aware technically, and we need massive investments in dealing with such set of crime, because even if somebody hacks a train, railway signals, and banks and whatnot, they did in Iran. So it can happen anywhere. So we should be aware and technologically sound in dealing such type of crimes.
Absolutely. Mr. Manoj Avram, last word to you. What should be the two key immediate priorities that you feel anybody in the government department, be it public sector, banks or public sector, PSU, or a government department who is in front of actually facing the challenge of security, their job is to actually mitigate. What should be their two key priorities?
I think most of the points have been touched, but I feel one of the points that is important is the public-private participation also, because in this world of when we have the government as a vulnerable target, It's very essential that all the sectors, all the stakeholders come together, coordinate, put in, raise additional resources, put the necessary resources, and ensure that cyber security is a priority. And another point which I just want to touch upon is we need to really look at the national cyber security policy also, because that also needs a revamp with the changing times, with the changing problems. That also requires a revamp from time to time, which is so very important in ensuring cyber security.
Mr. Manoj Abraham, Mr. Triveni Singh, Dr. Balsing Rajput, Mr. Narendra, Mr. Haider Zaidi, thank you so much for sharing your views. I believe you all spoke quite well as to what kind of challenge government organization faced during the pandemic, and how actually they use technology for mitigating the cybersecurity challenges, and some of the framework, the security framework, especially the zero trust, and also skill resources and all that they have to make in order to ensure that they have a better cybersecurity mitigating framework in place, and some of the immediate focus that they should have. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful panelist. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So nice. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing your point of view. Thank you, Ujaley, for bringing out the best from the discussion. Indeed, a very knowledgeable session. Now we'll take a short break. Stay tuned, everyone.